I'm Grace Santiago, a science teacher and department chair in Baltimore City Public Schools. Welcome to our next video. In this video, we'll introduce our next activity, My Musical Phrase. This activity is an opportunity for students to use simplified written music as a vehicle to practice and apply their understanding of sound, pitch, and volume. Students will be introduced to the very basics of writing and reading music, and will write and play their own musical phrases while incorporating the unique concepts of pitch and volume. The writing of musical phrases learned and practiced in this lesson will be revisited in the final Engineering Design Challenge. In the EDC, students will write and play their original musical phrases using their echolocation device as the instrument. This activity could be performed with no additional materials, allowing students to make use of their hands and/or their voices as their instruments. However, this activity is made even more engaging and music integrated with the use of simple musical instruments. Any instrument that you have available would work for this activity, such as kazoos, recorders, bucket drums, boom whackers, triangles, etc. You could even ask your school's music teacher if they have a classroom set of instruments you could borrow for a period. As the teacher, you will just need a very basic requisite knowledge of musical notes, limited only to quarter notes, half notes, rest notes, and the volume and pitch of sounds. To facilitate this activity, explain to students that they will be writing their own simple sound song using musical notes, and they'll be able to play their sound using a simple version of an instrument. For increased engagement, you could even play music of your choosing while displaying the written sheet music for the song and explaining to students that the symbols on the page are what musicians read to play the notes that make up the music of the song that they're hearing. Here's how to perform this activity with your students. First, use the My Sound Song slides to teach students the basics of musical notes by having students clap after me using the tried and true classroom attention grabber of echoed clapping. Tell your students to clap after me while displaying the simple 4-beat music. Change the rhythm of your clapping just as you normally would when using this attention getter. Once students are comfortable with and have practiced several examples of clapping the 4-beat lines, teach students the symbols and lengths of the 8th note, the quarter note, and the quarter rest note. Next, have the class proceed through the subsequent examples, clapping the 4-beat samples by reading the musical notes. At this juncture, students should also practice playing at different combinations of high volume, low volume, high pitch, and low pitch. If any alternate suggested materials are available, like the boom whackers, bucket drums, or triangles, allow students to use these in place of simple clapping. Here's what this could look like. Once your students have written their musical phrases, the real fun can begin, playing them. Remember that your students can perform this activity with materials as simple as just their hands clapping their musical phrases. Today, I have a full set of boom whackers available that I'm going to use to play my musical phrase. So for the first line of my musical phrase, I included low volume and low pitch. So I'm going to use my boom whacker that creates the lowest pitch sound, and I'm going to hit it very softly to produce a low volume sound. I'll play the first line of my musical phrase again, saying the type of notes that I'm playing as I play. 8th, quarter, rest, quarter. Now let's move on to the second line of my musical phrase. In this line of my phrase, I selected high volume and high pitch. Remember that this is going to come in handy for your students to practice when they get to the end of the unit in our Engineering Design Challenge extension. I'm going to pick a boom whacker that creates a higher pitch sound. I'm going to hit it as hard as I can to create a high volume sound wave. Again, I'll play it one more time while saying the type of note that I'm playing. Quarter, rest, quarter, rest. Your students can play their musical phrases as many times as they'd like until they get them perfect. This will just give them more practice with low volume and high volume sounds and low pitch and high pitch sounds. Following the lesson in practice, students will write their very own sound song on the provided My Sound Song printable. Students should be provided the opportunity to practice and play their song using whichever instruments you have available. Keep in mind that this rhythm will be used with their echolocation devices later in the unit, so assessment could also be paired with the Engineering Design Challenge rubric. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you in the next video.